talking on stage on a panel and in front of 500 odd people, everyone put your hands up if you're using AI, every week, every day, and 3/4 of the room's putting their hand up. And then you go, right, keep your hand raised if you think you're using it well. And 90% of the hands drop. There's this latent demand for great solutions from the construction industry. There's productivity challenges, there's labor challenges. The demand and the appetite's there, but also then these solutions have got to be good work, easy to adopt more than anything.
G'day guys, Alistair Blanken, founder and CEO of ProcurePro. I used to be a commercial real estate lawyer for my sins, but I realised pretty quickly there was better ways to live. Decided to jump out and change the industry, build a contracting platform for the developer, and ended up shifting gears across into the construction sector with a long-time mate, Tim Rogers.
Hey guys, Tim Rogers, co-founder and head of product at ProcurePro. Spent a good 10 years in construction, in the trenches, living and breathing procurement and all the challenges that it brings, and knew there was a better way. So I'm essentially bringing all the ideas to the table and palming them off to the real man who's delivering the magic himself, Tom Newby.
Tom Newby, head of data and AI. So the last decade in B2B enterprise software and the built environment spaces. And so we spent the last couple of years on the ProcurePro space, doing software development, bringing that to life, and then put myself on a desert island with a bunch of open AI credits and saw what we could build.
So we've sort of been deep in this procurement space for 5 years, working with over 200 builders across the globe. Started in Australia, expanded into the UK, Ireland, Middle East, increasingly the US as well. And so we've got this really deep domain expertise over a lot of years on seeing all this pattern recognition of how builders are procuring, how things can be improved, automated, solving all these problems around visibility and manual process, connectivity. Through this journey, we obviously knew that the process of leveling quotes, that's of all the jobs to be done, of all the complexity,
That's the worst.
that's the one that matters.
That's the one that matters.
And so BidLevel, for those who haven't seen it, is basically an AI quote comparison product. I think get your 5 quotes in different formats, throw them into the AI machine, spins around, and gives you back a level comparison in a matter of seconds or minutes, not days, weeks.
The technology of the last 2 or 3 years, particularly with large language models and stuff, the growth curve of those has been insane. And it's basically just bringing the domain understanding from construction, obviously having been in and around this environment for a while now, and our relationships with Tim and as well as our customers as well, understanding how software products come to life, how we can actually package them up into a usable format as well as a bit of a handy skills around data and AI, how we can kind of culminate all those together into something we can actually bring to market and solutions like BidLevel to really solve some pretty massive and very real problems. I think we did see other metrics as well from ProcurePro that I think it was the 10% of packages that had at least 3 quotes in them. They were just approved with an Excel file that basically just had the top line number. There was no sort of breakdown analysis done because you're just so time poor. And yeah, you might be making enough of a profit that it's fine, we can kind of move faster. But there's so much opportunity there.
You look at some of the sound bites over the last 5 years building ProcurePro, and you go from that, C-suite director level, people are trying to find that, where's that next 0.25%, 0.5%, of my revenue going to come from, and that might equate to say 20% profit. But you look at those stats and how people are actually comparing. We know procurement is such a huge lever to be able to make equal or lose money. And so it's kind of going, well, how much analysis is being done there? Talking to Chief construction director, and he goes, right, we summed up every single job. The CA does their job perfectly. Every single job, they're supposed to be working 110 hours a week. And he goes, right, Al, Tim, how many of our CAs working 110 hours a week? None. And so it's as much about what you're not doing as opposed to what you are doing.
Sort of pull back around why did we actually come to start work on this? And you have a look at some of the data that we can pull out of ProcurePro, and it's pretty objective, notwithstanding I've actually done the job myself and can anecdotally say it is the worst part of it. And the longest bit, ProcurePro data has told us people are spending time in Excel doing this job more than any other spot within the procurement workflow. And so it was a pretty clear opportunity for us to say, if we're going to have an impact on, achieving and saving 1 billion construction admin hours, this is where we're going to have the biggest impact. This is where we're going to do it.
When you get it. profit gains that are, and risk reduction for the actual construction companies themselves, just like the lived experience. Like, it's a pretty shit job. It's just, to get these huge quotes, numerous of them with a deadline attached to it, with so much detail in some of these as well, and so much money riding on it. It's such a daunting task to pick it up that it's obviously a lot easier just to keep delaying.
I'm a new junior construction professional on job, and all of a sudden I'm procuring a multi-million-dollar package that I've never seen before with not much experience. And it's just like, oh, this person's left, this person's gone on holidays.
Just generally, construction can be a bit technical. And you talk about how much work they have to do and the impact that has on the quality of work that they end up doing. If you don't have any time, you got a simple package, you choose the cheapest, you do a high level overview of it, and then you select that one, and then you hope that they've got the right scope, and away you go.
I think when I went building ProcurePro, particularly the first few years, right, like this, like end-to-end procurement product, and you kind of taught them a whole lot of contract administrators, and you go, how I get busy. The flip side of that is just the soundbite of anything to save me time. Like the amount of times I've done that over the last 5 years.
When we're going through and building this, and you talk to every second CA will say, I actually want to control the breakdown. I want to dictate it and basically paste, whether what's coming from our estimators. But then you put this in people's hands and they actually behave differently.
You got your estimators who are doing them full measuring, they're estimating software, cost to execute it, whatever. And they're creating these line items and this essentially the scope of works that they don't want to depart from. And so giving them the ability to upload or paste their breakdown in and then assess the quotes against that is super important. And from their perspective, comparatively to like a delivery team, is they are more focused on, I want to make sure that the scope is fully included. And then once the scope is included, can I plug those costs to see what the bottom line is for everything that I've identified in the project, versus a CA or a QS who is more so along the lines of, I've got all these quotes after they've looked at all of the different documents, drawings and specifications, and I want to extract all the information there and generate a all-encompassing that breakdown or scope to then assess it against. So there's like these two different, I suppose, experiences that we need to cater for in order to capture that range from pre-construction all the way through to delivery. So there's also an interesting bit in introducing AI into this workflow that sort of, I suppose, changed the workflow for a CA. Typically, they've got quotes and they're going through each of the quotes, maybe grabbing the most comprehensive one to then help frame up and create that breakdown. And then they're going through each of the quotes and getting familiar with them and then saying, oh, yeah, this is here. And they're sort of jumping all over the place on the Excel and just populating it, doing that 3 or 4 or 5 times over. And throughout the course of that, they're actually getting to know the quotes and the inclusions, the exclusions and everything like that. Versus you send quotes through BidLevel, the AI does the extraction, and you're given essentially this breakdown of these costs. But the CA and the delivery teams, they need to be across every single line item, particularly for the ones that they're selecting, because they need to make sure that they're comfortable that everything is accurate, which is exactly why we went down the road of saying we actually need to create some sort of review experience in order to get the CA back to that point where they actually are familiar with every single line item. They are confident with the extraction and the accuracy. And so that's where that side-by-side came in, where we pulled up the breakdown for each quote, the quote itself, and going that step further of, being able to point exactly where in the quote that extraction has come from.
Yes, so you go, that number, where's that from? You click it and you drop down page 6.
Auto rolls, buzz, straight in front of you. So a couple of CAs, interestingly, throughout our discovery and beta experience, have mentioned, why is this better than us just chucking prices into ChatGPT?
Because it works.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. But I'll probably defer to you, Tom, because you're the brains behind writing all of the prompts that are guiding the AI.
Yeah. Like ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot for that matter, they're obviously really excellent products, what they do, but where they really fall short in like this context of construction is that their PDF processing and how they can read a document is really quite simplistic. They perform perfectly at like, hey, here's like, 10 quote, just give me a bullet point list of all the contact details. So I can put it into some other record there. But once you start getting down to the line item level, which is like the precision you need for extracting prices, just out of the box, they just don't have that because it's actually like a really quite a difficult problem to solve. So we've had to invest in sort of like the best in class models, and they still haven't get you so far. So we have to build our own stuff on top of that to get that final mile for make them work really well for construction. But even if you assume that they could get further down that path, with billions of dollars behind them, the problem is still not really a throw my PDFs, get a sort of Excel file out and piss off sort of thing. The job is done in a platform that kind of starts to eat away at the process of Excel. It's not a in and out. It's a integrated workflow where AI is not just like one step. It's kind of like here, there, and everywhere.
Supercharging bits and pieces of it. But fundamentally, like where it's getting to is, can you edit the Excel essentially spreadsheet and tabs and all the information throughout? We plug. Can you do analytics? Can you do all of the things that Excel can't?
And ultimately, like where this trends to is going, okay, AI does the extraction. We edit the cell, you get an inbuilt feedback loop to go, okay, why has that been edited? Is there a problem with what the AI does? That creates, based on this domain-specific experience for the construction professional, feedback loop that improves it natively. You're not going to get that just by throwing things into a copilot and getting the answer back in isolation. And ultimately, does that start to learn behaviors across and then start to improve whether it's particular sectors or saying, hey, we start to get analytics on whether it's particular subcontractors, hey, they're pricing 20% higher than they were 4 months ago. The market hasn't moved that much. Or maybe they're just not hungry for work, or maybe you can, call them up and say, what's up?
And there's other things like, if you think about all the different edge cases that we've encountered already, you get quotes back that are rate only. How do you treat lump sums and show that within the interface so that it's clear that this line item is actually included in this cost up here for that particular subby, and trying to, I suppose, handle all those construction specific nuances, which I think ChatGPT just isn't trained up to handle properly or well.
I mean, it's the reason why Excel has been a de facto, well, not the fact it is the solution pre-AI to be able to do this job, is because you have this tool that can be used in so many different ways. You can custom format to represent the the construction costs and stuff like that.
Merge cells.
All that sort of stuff. Yeah. But then you go, like, if you go throw AI into it, the bit that makes AI today work well is when you've got guardrails and constraints around it. So that then poses the issue of how do you take something that it kind of requires this open-ended space to be able to have merge cells and that sort of stuff to express what is necessary out of these quotes, whilst also keeping guardrails around the AI.
There's a lot of complexity in this as well in terms of just the writing of how, not just the language and the variance and terminology, but how bodies are structured and how do you, it's why people do the job at the moment, right? It's challenging, and it's why it takes hours, days, weeks. Once you get past it, once you actually get to the job to get this thing done.
Yeah. It's still a very parallel job as well. It's not just like you throwing a single PDF into a ChatGPT copilot and like summarize this to me, which, those things can do really well today. You got 5, 10, 15 different quotes coming in, and some of them are huge as well. Those tools don't work to be able to read that many quotes all at once.
You start to see patterns with different types of trades as well. Like you'll have joinery trades or tiling trades where the architectural specifications will call up specific material types or joinery types or whatnot. Then that information can provide really useful for the AI and for the breakdown creation. And then those types of things really play a big part in the accuracy and the performance of the actual extraction. The initial reactions when you demonstrate this is blown my mind. This is going to actually get me home before dark type thing.
As well as that natural layer of skepticism, right? It's all in the details. It's if that works, wow.
Exactly.
But there's still the if that works piece, particularly because commercial people are numbers driven. So it's about actually looking at it and getting into the details.
Numbers driven and risk averse. Like they are the ones that, if they can miss something, it falls back to them. So they need to be comfortable with the accuracy. And so that's again part and parcel of why we did that whole side by side. Like, how can we get the people who are putting their names to these numbers comfortable with what the AI has done? And it's all in that review process. How can we make that as simple, quick, and easy as possible?
Like, it's funny, like you sort of look outside this problem space and you go, in AI, the companies that seem to be doing really well, across multiple industries are the ones that go, how do you make the person extraordinarily productive? It's not about AI does the whole job or replaces the job 0 to 1. It's about going, get me the first 80, 90% of the way there, but then how do I sort of hand in glove? So from this, contract administrator, quantity surveyor perspective, it's about, do the extraction, do the grunt work, and then let's make that next review experience really slick. So you vet the quote, you understand it, and then it's about breaking all the next jobs to be done down. So we want to plug numbers with low size average. We want to start to compare different slants on this. And ultimately, how do you continue that down through the procurement workflow after you've got to that level comparison, or your favorite around generating your clarifications back to the supply chain?
100%, exactly right. That's another little opportunity for us. And there's so many scattered throughout this process of comparing and getting to that apples for apples comparison. And very, very rarely do you get quotes back, and there's never back and forth between the subby to clarify, does this actually include XYZ, or can you actually price ABC, because it definitely needs to be in the scope and it doesn't seem to be included within your quote. And so just a simple read of the extraction against the line items to generate exclusions and clarifications email, which AI could do, instantly almost, would save so much time with that back and forth to really just get that grunt work again, eliminate all that manual admin to just get the ball moving sooner and quicker and faster.
A lot of feedback we've had both from estimators and CAs, just like you open a tender for 2-4 weeks sort of thing, and you can't wait until just before the end to actually start going through them, because it's such a monumental effort to do this job. So I'm going to wait till I've kind of got all these quotes, and you're at the 11th hour, then trying to scramble to get in contact with subbies who quoted you 4 weeks ago. So we can try and change that picture there by making it so effectively low cost from like a human input perspective, not from a SaaS perspective. To be able to execute this, then like you can continually be doing that analysis piece and start clarifying those things as you receive them. It's a better experience as well for subcontractors actually being engaged on the quotes.
Or like the sound bites from UK regional commercial director, 25 years on the big tier ones, come the code. Always ask his surveyors, all right, give me a feel for where we're sitting price wise. Just give me a quick feel. And the answer goes back is give us 2 weeks. It's just like, you need 2 weeks to full analysis. Well, can you just get like that indicative steer around roughly like where we're sitting, or how many holes are there in these quotes from a solution perspective as well? It's not just the volume of work, it's the delay in information that you're getting, and ultimately that creates risk where you don't have that information to make decisions sooner.
And then that sort of leads into the whole analytics piece. If you actually have the information available there, we can start to overlay analytics across each of the different prices, assessing them against, the line items through the different vendors, trying to spot categories that might be opportunities for you to push a little harder with the subcontractor to squeeze a little bit of price out of them. And we could very easily, just using simple data and analytics, to say, this is where you should apply pressure, or this vendor would end up being or performing and getting the lowest price if you just squeeze this category and this category down, as opposed to going to the one that's currently the cheapest.
Which is that kind of notion of going, you got hundreds of line items, but you got 7 categories, and 2 of the categories make up kind of 90% of the spans, so don't worry about the other ones. And that combination of hitting roughly how prices are sitting, that's your opportunity. That technology can identify that really quickly and basically get the person focusing on the right things in the right areas to try to optimize the outcome. When you look at sort of different categories of AI products and you're going, does this need to be 100%, or is 70, 80, 90% good enough? And it's certainly, this space has definitely fallen into the later categories. So we're seeing the human behavior of going, hey, even if this particular extraction is only working with that 89% accuracy, that's certainly valuable enough that that's saved me hours on the way, and I'm still going to need, no matter what tool you use, you still need to be across the details of the quote. There's still that speed to value, and then obviously that naturally the AI improves and gets better and better over time.
The human element was like they've got this new machine, and AI is quite new, so everyone's a bit of a tourist and wants to come in and have a play and send their hardest quotes through the thing, because those are the ones that take the most time to actually get through.
And we get the mechanical, electrical package and away we go.
Fling it in and then just see what it comes out with. A lot of the time, even if they need to go through every single quote and breakdown and whatnot, if it's a fine-tooth comb, that's fine, but at least it's delivered a breakdown for them, quicker and probably better than they could have done. And at the end of the day, they're going through that anyway to get comfortable. So we've, at the very least, saved them some time. And as we start to build out that functionality to keep them in that platform to edit, sell, plug numbers, analytics, do the review, send RFI emails and things like that, that's where they'll really see the value of that entire workflow of the process of comparing, which, as we know, is 30-40% of the time that you spend in preparing that or putting a trade through a recommendation is that manual grind of just plugging away, extracting quotes.
The worst part of my job. I've heard that like 10 times.
It's a couple interesting points there, though. Like, we talk about like accuracy and that sort of stuff, and like when you distill it to a single number, it's honestly quite tricky to get to. But the number is actually then like you drill into it, and there's different subsets of that. So you've got these service package, hydraulics, mechanical, these sort of things. They're just really hard quotes to process in first place. We do user interviews, and we say like, yeah, maybe it didn't perform so well in that package, but like, what do you think? Like, what do you think of the output? And they say often, yeah, actually, you can't really do much with these quotes because there's actually not that much. I'm like, I don't know what you're expecting out of it.
How am I going to compare to myself?
Yeah. So there's an interesting thing that comes out then. There's actually like these different like subsets of the accuracy in there. That there's just some packages that are better than others. And there's a pattern of behavior we see, as we mentioned, that like some people come in, they throw their hardest package in, and some of them just maybe don't get the best outcome, and they say, maybe this is not for me yet, I'm not ready, because they're a bit earlier in their journey of adopting this technology. But we're seeing the similar patterns happen in AI coding tools, where some people started trying, it didn't work super well, and they gave up. Some people said, hey, it didn't work well on this thing I was working on, but let's try this other one. They're just trying to exploit this new technology to find what works. And those are the ones that are saying like, yeah, sure, maybe I spend the most of my time on hydraulics, it's really hard to spend time on. But there's all these other ones that are like comparatively kind of easy, but they're now like solved. I just don't need to spend that much time on them because it is easily solved by AI. So then I can focus my time on those instead.
Anecdotally, like everything's moving at such pace as well. Like it might not work specifically for this type of package or this trade right now, but then you give it 3, 4, 5 months where we've improved the logic and improved the prompts to guide the AI to better handle all these different nuances. Then all of a sudden, we're getting so much closer to that endpoint that you need to be with those really complex ones.
There's a thing that got in last week that the breakdown it produced wasn't great. The overall thing that she was trying to do was become an expert in the quotes that she'd received to build her breakdown. And if you're doing that manually, it takes you just hours and hours and hours. For you to like delete that Excel file and start again from scratch is so daunting. But for you to just like create a new package and use my new improved breakdown that I've sort of formulated sort of alongside AI and then start again, like it's so comparatively low energy compared to just starting a whole Excel file from scratch.
There are so many contract administrators, quantity surveyors, like doing this job, on a global scale. And then we start to basically analyze the behaviors of how people operate, what they do. And like, that's the unique part of being a software vendor and basically being able to observe the behavior and what people are doing or not, because you've then got pattern recognition at scale. Go back to that point around like, do I want to feed the AI breakdown, or do I actually want to do the work for me with the AI generated? One, because it's going to be more comprehensive and it's going to help me capture a lot of what's in all of the quotes. And so it's kind of almost what people think they want versus like how it actually kind of behave and get things in pens.